Welcome to Lair the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. And welcome to another edition of Sabbath Sunday. This is where Darren and I get together with you on Sundays to talk all things Black Sabbath. Darren and I have a Black Sabbath podcast that you can check out that we will link in the description down below. For today's episode, we are ranking the Black Sabbath title tracks. So the title tracks to the Black Sabbath albums, there's 11 of them, and I'll give them to you here so you can organize this in your head as you're going along if you want. All right, I'll start from chronologically from the earliest one. We've got the first album, Black Sabbath, Paranoid, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Never Say Die, Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, Born Again, Seventh Star, Eternal Idol, Headless Cross, and Forbidden. So we have 11 altogether, and we are going to rank them for you. All right, so we're going to do them in groups of 3 until we get to the second pick and until we get to the first pick. So Darren, what's your 11, 10, and 9 on your list?
11 is Forbidden. No surprise there. Number 10 is Eternal Idol, and number 9 is Seventh Star.
Okay. My number, now I should say that, Black Sabbath is we were talking, we did the episode when we made our last one where we made an album, and we talked about how Black Sabbath is very deliberate about conscious of their album openers and their album closers. And I'd say that they're pretty the same way with title tracks. Usually the title tracks are kind of a highlight of the record or a center point or, an important part of the album. That isn't always the case, but so this was kind of tough to do because a lot of the title tracks are really good. But all right, my 11, 10, and 9 are 11. I've got Forbidden. Like you said, no surprise. In fact, when we were doing this, I totally forgot that was even on the record. That was a title track. It's forgettable. Seventh Star, number 10 for me, lacks a little bit of weight. Wish it was a little bit heavier. And number 9, Never Say Die. I like that song, but it's maybe a little. I'm used to Sabbath title tracks being epics.
Yeah, a little bit more, I get that.
So. Okay, so this is, let's see here, 8, 7, and 6.
Okay, so 8 for me is Never Say Die. 7 is Headless Cross, and 6 is Born Again.
Okay, my 8 is Born Again, 7, Headless Cross, and number 6, Eternal Idol. Okay, now we are 5, 4, 3.
So 5 is Mob Rules, 4 is Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and 3 is Heaven and Hell.
Okay, yeah, this is the tough territory now because these are all these are the good ones. Okay, so 5 for me is Paranoid. I feel kind of bad putting Paranoid this low on the list, but it's kind of a short song. So all right, so it lands here for me. Number 4, Mob Rules. That's a short one too, but it just packs so much punch that I had to sort of have it high up on my list. And number 3 is Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Okay, so what's your number 2?
Number 2 is Paranoid. Number 2, Paranoid.
Okay, my number 2 is Black Sabbath.
Okay.
All right, and that should leave us with 1, your number 1 pick.
My number 1 pick is Black Sabbath. I mean, that is probably the quintessential album track, title track. It's epic, heavy. I mean, it's the premier Black Sabbath title track in my opinion.
Okay, can't argue with that, as it was my number 2, but my number 1 is Heaven and Hell, just because it's so epic. It's so grand. It sits kind of in the middle of the record, the end of side 1. It's maybe one of Ronnie's best songs, some of his best lyrics, some of Iommi's best soloing, the double time thing at the end of the song, the acoustic guitars as it fades out. I mean, it's just epic. To me, it's one of the greatest title tracks of all time.
It's a fantastic song, and most of these are as we go down the list. I mean, at least in the top 10. I mean, it's really kind of hard, and they could change places, on any given day. But this is what I came up with today, and I stand behind it. But some days, I've said that Paranoid is probably my all-time or one of my all-time favorite songs, and it is. But as far as representing the album title track, it falls just slightly short. I mean, it's most everything in this list, obviously, according to my pecking order, is in the shadow of Black Sabbath. So, but I mean, in any given day, some of these can rank a little higher, some of them maybe rank a little lower. But this is these are my current picks.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I said, I tend to think of the Sabbath title tracks as being a little bit longer, a little bit more epic. And if Paranoid was titled what they originally intended it to be titled, which would have been War Pigs, it would have sort of fit that criteria of being, a long epic one. But when we talked about doing this list, my number one came to my mind right away. That was easy for me, Heaven and Hell. And then I just had to sort of go backwards. And I knew my top three, Black Sabbath, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and number one, Heaven and Hell. I knew that those were my top three. And really the only one, like you said, all of them could move around. Probably the only one that would stick where it is Forbidden at number 11. And it's just because it's kind of what plagues that album in general, which is just songs that are a little bit forgettable. And that's just a forgettable one for me, and disappointing considering it's the title track. So
yeah, Born Again was actually in my top 5, but I switched places with Mob Rules. I just thought that Mob Rules, just by a hair, ranked a little higher than Born Again. But Born Again, we talked about it several times. I have my issues with Born Again as a whole, the album, but there's 2 songs that I love, and one is Born Again, and the other, of course, is Keep It Warm.
Yeah.
So Born Again as a title track is heavy, it's epic, it's a great title track. But Mob Rules just has so much energy. It's just a driving song. Today it ranked at number 5. Maybe tomorrow it would be number 6 and switch places with Mob Rules, or Born Again. But today it's Mob Rules at number 5.
Yeah, and the way Mob Rules comes in after E515.
Oh yeah,
it's just so like, it's just so dramatic, and it's it's short, but it just packs a real wallop. It's just got a lot of energy and a lot of strength to it. Whereas Never Say Die, that was a little higher up on my list. Then I kind of dropped it down because it's a little too happy sounding. It's a little too,
I agree,
right. And whereas all these other ones again have some intensity to them. The song, the Eternal Idol, Headless Cross, the Tony Martin ones that ranked a little bit higher on the list. But Never Say Die is it's a little too, I don't want to say throwaway, but it's a little too upbeat and a little bit too hard rock.
Yeah, it differs from the other title tracks because it has a lighter feeling behind it. It's not as epic, it's not as weighted. So yeah, my Never Say Die ranked at number 8 for me, and mostly because it's an okay song. I mean, it's not one of my favorite songs off Never Say Die. Never Say Die really isn't one of my favorite Sabbath albums in general, but it had to rank a little lower because, I mean, you're talking about the songs that rank higher. I've got Headless Cross, Born Again, Mob Rules, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, Paranoid, and Black Sabbath. Now, granted, Paranoid does kind of share the same sort of little bit of levity. It's not as with,
but it has a dark vibe to it. It has with the lyrics.
A little bit, the lyrical content, but Paranoid is such an iconic song. I mean, whether you're burned out with it or not, it's the song that cracks into the classic rock format. I mean, of all the songs here, you're most likely, there's one song that you're likely to hear on classic rock radio, and it's Paranoid. And it's a great song. I mean, it's a well-written song. It's catchy. I just like the song. I mean, I know as we see the comments on this video, Paranoid will probably rank pretty low, I think. And I have a feeling it's going to rank pretty low on most people's lists, but I'm pretty defiant about it. It's a lock at number 2 for me.
All right. Well, there you go. There's Darren and I's list here. Let's see if Darren's right. Where do you guys rank these title tracks? We're curious to see where you rank, for instance, Paranoid, is it factoring in the burnout factor, that is probably going to affect some people where that some particular song lands. But yeah, we're curious. Maybe if you don't want to do all 11, let us know what your favorite Sabbath title tracks are, and if you can, rank all 11 of them for us, because we'd be interested in hearing it. Let us know what you think of our picks. Make sure you check out our podcast, linked in the description down below, and we will see you at the next Sabbath Sunday.